Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. That VBA is a different challenge because you need to understand programming fundamentals. But I also tell students who I teach at colleges that, of course, it's going to take you a lot of time and effort, but it is worth it if you feel that in the future, maybe after 2 or 5 years, you're expected to learn a different programming language, let us say Python or R. I think VBA is a good starting point, and I think
I used to work as a junior accountant in my first full-time job. In that role, I used to be purchase coordinator, in which I had to raise hundreds of purchase orders every week. And it's a very manual task. I have to go into the system. Honestly, VBA is not easy tool to learn for non-IT background people.
We don't need to learn all the functions in Excel. And I think the goal doesn't have to be quantity, it has to be quality. I think it's more important to focus on the 10, 15, 20 most important functions and do that really, really well. Hello everyone, I'm Havish Madhupati. Welcome to Conversations on Data. I'm delighted to have with me today Talia, who's working with SumProduct as a senior analyst. SumProduct provides training and consulting services to various clients on Excel and Power BI. Talia is originally from Vietnam, working at the moment in Australia. She comes from an accounting background and currently is pursuing her way towards CPA Australia. In today's conversation, we're going to talk about how to pursue the path to become a data analyst, how to excel at Excel, the correct learning path to learn more advanced Excel, how to demonstrate your learning to recruiters, and other general advice to business school students. Hi, Talia. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Havish, for having me here today.
All right. So there are a number of things that I want to talk about. But to begin with, could you tell us a little bit about your background? What are you doing professionally at the moment?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone whenever you are listening to this podcast. My name is Kang Dat Hao. You can call me Talia, which is my English name. I'm from Vietnam and currently living in Sydney, Australia. I'm working as a senior analyst of SumProduct, a company that provide Excel and Power BI training and consulting services. My background is in accounting and I'm studying towards CPA Australia. My main responsibility as work is to provide consulting solutions to my clients from various industries such as accounting, education, government, renewable, mining, etc. My day-to-day job includes transforming data, building financial models and data model, improving clients' processes by automations, and creating dashboards using different tools in Excel, Power BI, and sometimes Power Automate. I'm passionate about solving complex Excel problems and automating tasks. I'm glad to be here today, so hope my sharing will be helpful for you all.
Excellent. So first of all, let's get a little deeper into automation, right? Now, a lot of people feel that automation is only meant for programmers. It is only meant for those people coming from a computer science background. And a lot of students also feel that automation is not going to create an impact on them. So I just want to hear your thoughts on it in terms of, generally speaking, what is automation and how is it impacting different clients, and what is the level of impact that it can create in different processes?
Yeah, thank you for the interesting questions. So the futures, currently the trend is using AI or like big data is currently the trend in around the world. And to adapt to that trend, we should, every business should apply automation in their process to deal with like large amount of data as well as large amount of work that they are doing. And as I mentioned, I am from an accounting background. So I have to deal with repetitive manual tasks every day. That's why I need to find a way to automate them to save time on the repetitive task and focus more on the more important task, that is making decisions. So Microsoft has provided us many tools that can help us automate our workflows and save hundreds of hours while reducing human errors. So let me tell you a story when I first started my career. So I used to work as a junior accountant in my first full-time job. In that role, I used to be purchase coordinator, in which I had to raise hundreds of purchase orders every week. And it's a very manual task. I have to go into the system, change the quantity of each items to match the minimum order value for each suppliers. And in addition, when the orders were received, I needed to reconcile them against hundreds of supplier invoices in different formats like a CSV or PDF. And every month end, I also needed to send out hundreds of invoices, which used to be entered one by one into our accounting software. So those are very manual tasks, as you can see. Yeah. The job was quite straightforward at that time, as I rarely had time to take a short break. A question kept popping up in my mind at that time was, this task is too manual and time consuming. Is there a better way that I can solve it? So I spent my whole weekend trying to write down some macros in VBA that could help me automate those tasks. Later on, when I figured out the Power Query in Excel, I started to use it to help me with the reconciliation process. So in that role, I have had my company automate the ordering process and reduce the workload of a person by around 12 hours per week. And that is more than 600 per year. So just need to click a few buttons and all tasks will be done by VBA and Power Query. In my current role, I don't have much repetitive tasks anymore, but I still use this tool in Excel to help my clients improve their processes. So automation does not only help us save significant time on our manual and repetitive tasks, but also help us save a lot of costs on human resources or human errors.
Yes, I think that's a great example. I have a follow-up question. So you mentioned both the VBA, where you wrote macros, and you mentioned that later on you also started working on Power Query.
Yeah.
Now, we have been through that journey, right? Where we all initially worked with VBA, and Power Query has really only become popular in the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's right.
For students who are currently pursuing an MBA or some other degree, do you think it's important for them to learn both the tools equally, or should they focus on either one of them, especially for students in an accounting, finance type of a role?
Yeah, it depends on the purpose that when they use those tools. So if they just need to use to clean the data or transform the data, extract data, then they just need to use Power Query. And if they want to automate tasks related to the UIs, users interface, or the interaction with all the software, Microsoft software, then they can learn VBA. Honestly, VBA is not easy tool to learn for non-IT background people. Yeah, you will need to take lots of time, and we need to have a programming, like a little bit programming knowledge to start with VBA.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. That VBA is a different challenge because you need to understand programming fundamentals. But I also tell students who I teach at colleges that, of course, it's going to take you a lot of time and effort, but it is worth it if you feel that in the future, maybe after 2 or 5 years, you're expected to learn a different programming language, let us say Python or R. I think VBA is a good starting point. And I think the reason VBA is a slightly simpler programming language is because it is based on Excel, right? So any operation that we perform, we can visually see the action, right? But yes, I think fair point that VBA is going to be more challenging. Power Query, on the other hand, is better at transforming data.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we know both the tools are important and it really depends on the need, what is the learning path? I mean, should students just go on YouTube and start following the top 15, 20 people in the world? Should they do online courses? Should they read books? Because the problem is we have so much content. Like I remember when I did my MBA in 2007, YouTube was only 2 years old, right? There was no educational content on YouTube. We had to read books. We did not have a choice. Now we are spoiled for choice. It's overwhelming because, and there's so much good content. It's not that there's bad content. Even if you search for something as simple as basic VBA, you're going to find like 100 different channels on it. Now we can't invest that level of time. So what do you suggest is the correct learning path? How should students go about learning any tool for that matter, whether it's VBA or accounting best practices or finance or Excel?
Yeah. Honestly, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to these tools or this knowledge. It depends on how you use it in your job as well. So let me take an example about Excel. So if you simply do basic calculation, you just need to know a few basic functions like if, some ifs, some index match, mod, a few date functions, and some features like data validation and conditional formatting. I didn't mention VLOOKUP here as it has some limitation that we should avoid. So index match or XLOOKUP in the newer Excel version are good substitutes. And of course, if you are a statistician or engineer, you will need to know more complex Excel function related to your field. Honestly, I don't know all Excel function and I almost never use many of them. As a financial modeler, you may need to know financial functions like NVP, IRR, PMT, and some what if analysis tools like data tables, GoSig solver. And as a BI analyst, you will need to learn Power Query, Power Pivot, charts. And as an accountant or finance professional, you will need to, if you want to automate your repetitive tasks, you may need to learn Power Query and VBA. You can always learn all of these tools so that it will help you do your task more smoothly and faster. So the beginner to intermediate levels may take a few weeks to months. To advanced levels will take 2 to 3 years. But in order to master Excel, it will take you many years. You never know everything about Excel. There's always something new that you can learn from others. So I will tell you a little bit about my Excel learning path. So when I was in my secondary school in 2010, I started learning Excel at a computer center near my house because I had plenty of free time during the summer break. At that time, I learned most of Excel interface features. And then when I went to uni, I started to know VBA and learned it, although I did not have any IT background, or I know at that time was just Pascal language. So I used to use VBA to clean data as I wasn't aware of Power Query. It was still new to many people because it was introduced in around 2010, I think. Yeah. Not until I got my first full-time job, didn't know about Power BI and then the existence of Power Query and Power Pivot in Excel. In my opinion, you should start with some basic Excel function and features first, and that's usually taught in school or uni. You don't need to know over 500 Excel functions. The next one includes shortcut keys, Power Query with M language, Power Pivot with DAX, and finally VBA. So I used to have a colleague that know many shortcut keys that can speed up a process from around 5 minutes down to under 1 minute. But that doesn't mean you need to remember all shortcut keys and avoid using mouse. You can choose whatever easier for you. So yeah, and regarding VBA, as I mentioned, it's not easy to learn. And not many people in your organization know VBA as well. So you need to prepare that you will be maybe an only person in your company that know VBA. And some people also tend to be reluctant to use anything that they are not sure how it's works. When you use VBA, it's not easy to undo or trace all of the steps for a person that don't know how to use VBA. So you will need to like teach them, educate them how to use the model that you have built. And regarding VBA, yeah, you don't need to learn so many things in VBA. You just need to know common syntax in VBA enough so that you can Google, understand the codes, and then know how to adapt them to your model. Yeah,
Right.
so that is the learning path. Yeah.
Right. I think you bring some very interesting points forward. One is that we don't need to learn all the functions in Excel. And I think the goal doesn't have to be quantity, it has to be quality. I think it's more important to focus on the 10, 15, 20 most important functions and do that really, really well. You know, when I tell students you're learning, let's say some ifs, don't just watch one example and practice it. Go online and search for like 25 variations on it, right? So go really deep into it before you move on to the next one. You know, as students, we are always in a hurry and we feel we have to learn more. And I always tell them, don't learn more, but learn in more detail the most common functions that you're learning. I think shortcuts also is a very important point. Again, a lot of people, especially students, tell me, what's the big deal about shortcuts? You know, I will learn shortcuts when I join the organization. So I tell them that learning shortcuts and making it a part of your workflow also is a habit, and habits take time. You know, it's not that you can take out a printout and suddenly start to use all of them. And as you said, the right blend is very important. You know, it's not that I use everything, I do everything using the keyboard. There are a lot of cases where I use the mouse and I use a combination. And I think the biggest advantage is that when you use shortcuts, you save a lot of time. And that saved time can be spent on more analysis and more reading, right? So I think that's the biggest advantage that comes out.
Yeah.
Also with VBA, I can see how apprehensive and cautious you are while giving an answer. And I appreciate that because it's important for students to have a real picture, right? I hate the fact where people say you can do a 2-hour course and learn VBA. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? And it sets a very bad precedent because students feel we can just learn it overnight before an interview. So I think you have to be very cautious, and it's a long journey, right? While I guess everybody can learn how to record a macro in 30 minutes, learning how to modify it and read it, like you said, takes a lifetime. So I think they should be very conscious if VBA is the tool that they want to work on. All right, so we are focused on the learning. And as you said, learning is a different path for everyone. So do what works for you. How do students prepare a portfolio? You know, because let's say students are learning a lot of stuff on Excel, maybe on Power BI. Power BI, I feel you can still demonstrate because it's a dashboard, right? So you can make it visually, aesthetically very appealing. And you can, like I have done on my website, you can present it to possible recruiters. But what about Excel? You know, it's one thing to say that I'm very good with Excel. I know how to build complex formulas. I know how to combine a SumFS with a dynamic array, for example. But what is the demonstration? You know, how should one articulate in the interview that I'm a really good Excel user and I have a very good sense of how to build models?
Yeah. I have to be honest. At the end of the day, Excel is just a spreadsheet tool that can help you with your work. To stand out from other candidates, only tool is not enough, as anyone can easily write a proficient in Excel or proficient in Power BI in their resume. It's just like having a car but don't know how to drive. So be noted that in advance in Excel doesn't mean that advance in your career. Many of my clients are seniors and managers, but they don't know Power Query or VBA. Your interviewers may have never heard of those terms as well. So you need to be specific how you use them in solving business problems. In my opinion, problem solving and critical thinking are the two important soft skills in addition to technical skills in your area of expertise, like accounting, finance, data analytics, visualization skills. Therefore, you need to demonstrate those skills in your Excel solutions. How you will improve business processes with your Excel skills. And to build up your profile, you can get certificates from Excel exam or courses and add them to your LinkedIn profile. Another way is to share your tips, experience in using Excel to others via blogs, YouTube, or LinkedIn. I recently presented a topic about process automation with Excel and Power Automate at Excel Virtually Global event. You can watch it on YouTube, link on my LinkedIn profile, Talia. And the next way is to be active on LinkedIn. I can see some pages on LinkedIn post their Excel or Power BI challenges. You can join them and join the discussion as well, so that later, if your employers found your profile, they will know that you have joined those challenges and you are good enough in Excel and Power BI to understand and to solve the problems. My current boss is an Excel MVP that is most valuable professional awarded by Microsoft. He offered me an analyst position after I found him from a webinar and then connected him on LinkedIn. So that's a few ways that I think you can improve your profile and show the recruiters about your Excel skills.
Absolutely. I think that really helps. Final question. Any other general advice that you have for business school students?
Yeah, I just have two words. The first one is curiosity. When you are curious, you will find different ways to learn and solve a problem, not only in Excel, it's in your real life as well. And the second word is focus. You need to, it's a favorite word of Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. You need to focus on your goals instead of trying too many tools without having much, because time is limited. And I would like to conclude with my favorite quote, try to learn something about everything and everything about something, by Thomas Huxley. And yeah, thank you, Havish, for inviting me to this podcast session, and hope everyone have a great day.
Our pleasure having you today, Talia.
Yeah, thank you.